Isle Streams. Today we have a special guest, one of my friends and also a quite avid gamer, uh, Zeusfer. You can go and follow him on Twitch. He does a number of amazing games as well as Let's Plays. I think recently he was The Radius, and he also does VR streaming, which is pretty advanced and crazy and something that I have, it's beyond my abilities. But yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, Zeusfer.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really stoked. I always like watching your stream, and it's a treat to be on here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, in typical Clever Diversion fashion, we're going to be talking about some high level concepts and over some light, kind of chill survival gameplay. And
Well,
so,
he's going
this,
to be talking about high-level concepts. I'll be trying to keep it together.
well, for this one, like, I just wanted to, talk about because we tried the Isle, right? Like last year, I think, like
Yeah, that's right.
2020 ish, was it? Or was it 2019?
Well, all I know is you jumped on at one point. You hit me up, and you're like, "I've found this great game.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got to come play with me. We're going to be dinosaurs." I'm like, "I'm in." Um, and yeah, I think I want to talk about that experience because
Yeah. It was
I've
our whole
I've
friend group.
recently,
I got everyone
yeah.
to buy the game. It was $20, right? It's a great deal. And
Yep.
we jumped on. We were all Gallimimuses in Legacy Isle, and it was fantastic, right? We ran around, we did our calls, we ran away from some T-Rexes and Suchomimuses in the swamp. We made a bunch of noise, and it
Hmm.
was, very exciting. The horror element was immediately apparent to Cora and her sister, and it was a really fun time overall. But as we went on, like, I was the one that played it a lot and started streaming a lot just because that's what I do with video games. I get like super into one specific project. If I find out that I don't know a lot of stuff about the project, I'm like, well, I can't have that happen. I gotta fix that. So, but a lot of the other areas of the Isle didn't really work for some people, and in order to help the community, in order to help fix the Isle so that everyone can enjoy it, right? Not just the people that are willing to put up with its onerous details and what all the compromises that we have to make as players in order to play the Isle and enjoy the Isle right now.
And that's
Um,
why I'm here today is I'm an example of someone who frankly should have enjoyed the Isle. I was given all of the opportunity to, but I really bounced off it. And my bona fides are, similar survival games. Of course, I have Stalker, which you can see
yeah.
a little too much of on my profile.
Well, and the
And
hardcore survival genre is no
mhm,
stranger to like modern gamers, right? Like even
yes,
PUBG in many ways is somewhat indicative of like DayZ mods and like
that's right.
the idea of this server-based multiplayer online kind of drop in drop out real time um, environment that the Isle does
Yeah.
participate in, whether or not they want to or participate in the genre, like they are in the genre.
Or a little spoiler for something I'd like to talk about, regardless of what their goals might be in the future. Um, but yeah, that's the context of why I'm joining Clever Diversion right here. Is I am someone who should have liked the Isle, and I left, despite my good friend here staying on and becoming a uh, much more influential part of the community that I look to on updates for this game. Make sure to
Well,
hit that subscribe.
like, comment, subscribe always. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't pretend to like be hyper dedicated pillar of the community. I'm just a gamer who also likes this style of the Isle and have played in like approaching what's 700 hours now, which is nothing compared to some of the other Isle streamers. But that's just because that's how the Isle interacts with your time. But the idea is, that's what the game is right now, right? The game you can buy it for $20. Yeah, it's not done, and there's a complicated relationship socially and with the industry between like, you know, asking for money for a not done project, and like that's a much more advanced topic of discussion.
Yeah, that's a
But
I'd like you to steer um, the conversation for today. Like, what is the part that you'd most like to address of, your and I's difference in our experience with the Isle?
Well, yeah. So the thing is, I'm kind of like I'm an extremely generous audience member for for lack of better terms. Like I like to go to art and like meet art on its terms as
Hmm.
a consequence from like my experiences with theater and like being an actor and like kind of exploring the project more than like highly valuing like my time and my energy, which uh, the Isle is loath to abuse sometimes, or is ready
Yeah.
to take advantage of if you like lose 5 hours of a grow on falling into a hole or falling through the map or falling through like some glitched area. But the thing I want to really talk about is as a new player, what were the things that originally made you not pick up the Isle again? When you
Sure.
when you stopped playing it the first time, what made you not say, this is something I'm going to play like every week, or what was the day you stopped playing, and what were your feelings on that day?
Yeah, that's good. I think you can separate my reasoning into two different sections, two different big sections. One of which is the technical mistakes that, are obviously going to be there in an early access game, like falling into a rock or other such unintended gameplay, glitches, falling
Yeah,
through the map, the like. And then the other category is these missed opportunities or missed shots in actual gameplay style and stuff that isn't as clearly a glitch or bug and stuff that is still might be fixed, but needs to be fixed in a more creative and more abstract way. And I'm largely going to ignore that first category for
yeah,
now. Like we all know, you can fall through a rock. That sucks.
yeah.
It's not really worth talking about. The part that's worth talking about is the gameplay, and I think the first part that I'd like to touch on is the part of the Isle that comes so close to being a more complete game, but falls so inaccessible to people like me. And it was um, the Isle has, a couple types of servers, as far as I know. There are the servers with no rules, and there are the servers with rules that help the Isle be more itself. They help the Isle. You want to be able to be this dinosaur in an environment that makes sense and kind of escape the, frankly, not enjoyable parts of multiplayer gaming that
Yeah, the
you
griefing,
get.
the
Yeah,
toxicity, the super packing, the like killing on site.
yeah, and this this game was marketed to me not only by my good friend Clever Diversion here, but
Thank you.
also by the direct marketing of the game as a dinosaur simulator. This was a place where it's like I think it's a little cliche to say it makes you feel like a dinosaur,
Yeah,
like
but
Spider-Man.
the thing
And
is like no, let as a brief aside, it
sure,
is the only like game in the market right now. Like Beast
yeah,
of Bermuda doesn't do it as well. Path of Titan
mhm,
still is like in a less finished state than the Isle,
right,
and might do it. But like of all the games that are supposed to be animal simulators, this one is the furthest along in the modern industry right now. And I think that's important to acknowledge both the good parts of it and the parts that are just like we also need it to be a game.
yeah.
you know?
So exactly on that trajectory, we played on a no rules server, as
Yeah.
far as I know.
Yes.
Uh, and this was the most fun I've had in the Isle. And frankly, we encountered one other person, and it was a textbook good encounter. We got scared by a predator. There was a big scramble and a panic as we tried to react to it. It was genuine.
Oh
It
yeah.
was the textbook example of what an interaction in the Isle should look
I think it
like.
was like one Utah raptor on the log over the
Yep.
canyon thing, and
we
none
were
of us knew
enjoying
how to
ourselves,
fight.
sunning.
So,
Yep.
and we were all Gallimimuses of not an adult age, so we all like split up and ran away, and it was terrifying.
It was great, and I think one of us broke a leg.
Yes, I
it was
did.
very genuine, and that's the part that I enjoyed most about the Isle. And I think the part that I want to highlight is not the Isle itself, but the time spending the time that I spent with friends, because the fun I was having there wasn't because of the systems and the mechanics of the Isle. It was because I was with my good buds.
Right,
And
grouping.
that's unfortunate. It is an inherently social game, and at its current moment, there isn't really a whole lot on top of that. But that is enough for some people, and that's where these rule-heavy servers came into play. Is they wanted to recreate that experience of getting jumped and being scared, and packing up with your friends. And just a genuine dinosaur simulator. And so these rules servers were born, and I really tried. I tried to join in on this with you, Mason.
Yeah.
As soon as I got to rule number 32, 36, I there's in when I was playing on a rule
So,
server.
real quick aside,
the
it's
fear-
important.
Okay.
It's important to note, modern Everma doesn't have any rules right now yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Only Legacy Isle did, and that was because of years and years and years of development, and also
Sure.
it's a completely different game. Modern Everma is trying to fix all these community issues that we're talking about, like mixed packing, like killing on
And
site.
the water rule.
Water rule break stuff. Yeah, water rule
heard
break
good
stuff is
stuff,
completely
yeah.
gone. It's all been replaced by actual mechanics. And we're just having conversation to say what those mechanics should look like, right? What those mechanics
Exactly.
can look like. And
Because- And I want to be very clear. I don't think the game has to change completely. I don't think that, new rules, new bars, new mechanics, need to be added into excess. But I think a few subtle mechanics, a few bits of design could really push the Isle in a direction in which I'd like to play it again.
yeah,
It's
wouldn't
not
have-
there yet, but like I want to emphasize about the rule servers is the reason that I didn't like playing on the rule servers wasn't because of the rules themselves. It was because of the fear of other dinosaurs was replaced by the fear of being falsely accused, or the fear of confrontation with real other people that were very outside of the gaming space. It was
Yeah.
stressful because
social
Yeah.
anxiety, fear of misunderstanding, right? Of being misunderstood, and also of different rule interpretations. Like, I played
Yes.
the Isle for about 5 months pretty aggressively. I streamed it a lot. It's how I built a lot of the members on this channel. I think
Yeah.
most of them. And the day that I quit, the day that I stopped playing, was because I was falsely accused of a rule break. And I won that rule break. I submitted my evidence. As it turned out, it was completely fine. It was on, I believe, Isla Nublar, which I'd been playing on for several months, and I had a good relationship with the people there. Everything about that interaction was okay, except that I was like, this rule break is an error. I should not have been accused of this thing, which was a perfectly normal ambush that I made on a juvenile T-Rex. But because of that accusation, I had to stop my stream. I had to accumulate video evidence and submit it, which took about 40 minutes for them to get around to make the ruling, get around to, viewing the stuff or having a strike on my account. And, as a streamer, I just cannot be bothered to stop my workflow in order to do that, right? And the solution for many streamers is to own your own server, right? And pay for it and to upkeep it and have your own Discord and hire your own, admins. I say hire, but I really mean enlist volunteers who are working for free to make your community good in exchange for some amount of authority. And that is a big project, right? That's something that professional streamers can easily try to do. But for everyone else, that's a lot of work. And it just made me...
Not a great feeling to be at the whim of a community that you don't really know and who doesn't really know you. Because I get the feeling that in a lot of these communities, if someone sees a rule break done by someone who they know very well from their Discord or even from their life, it's not going to be treated the same way as if I get accused of a rule break.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like the idea of litigiousness, right? This is a big societal concept that America certainly has suffered from in the last 50 years that has caused a huge amount of, quite frankly, social waste and societal waste, which is the fact that anyone could be sued for anything at any time. And some of those suits, even if they're not successful, are still quite expensive to defend yourself from, right? So because of this, we've seen a lack of trust, like overall in society, about people being like, you can't be on any of my property because if you get injured, then I can get sued. And they're right. There have been lots of cases where people were doing stupid stuff on someone else's property and got sued and successfully won. Thieves or robbers have broken their legs on safety violations in other people's houses and gotten sued for it. So the ideas of like this thing being fake isn't, or just something you should like naturally get over, isn't imaginary. And I think the thing that the Isle knows that it wants to be also, and that it can be also, is what most of the rules on most of the servers are, right? Which is no carnivore mix packing, right? That's a big one for, lots of, I'm trying not to name like too many specific names of major YouTubers, but like that's one of the key ones for balance, right? It's not because we're role-playing dinosaurs here, it's because we want to play a balanced game that happens to involve dinosaurs.
I wanted to be a dinosaur. Like, that's the entire reason that I got into this game. That was the selling point for me, and that still is. I'm still looking for that version of the Isle that makes an honest effort towards making me feel like I am in a wild environment as an animal that is, scaly and big and cute.
Sure.
Like I'm looking for a genuine experience that does, impose unique restrictions on how I act based on this simulation that they're offering. I'm not looking for a flight simulator where I'm just turning, in a dogfight on seeing who can bite who. I want to, be worried. It's like, well, I could attack this person, but, that would expend a lot of energy, and, energy regens kind of fast. It just never really felt like an honest look at what it's like to be a dinosaur.
Sure. And that's like tone and atmosphere generation for the game, which, right now I think most of the game designers are just worried about getting it running, getting it working.
Course, yeah.
Partially because they are one of the consequences of having this play it before it's done model is you are, even if you're not acknowledging it, you are selling a video game right now. Like they are, this is what the Isle looks like right now, right? They do have players, they do have a community, they do have people who are in here who need to be taken care of. And a lot of what that turns into in the beginning is, does it work, right? Can people get in? Are the servers this big? Do we have global chat? Do we not have global chat? Do we have admin features, right? Like a lot of those basic mechanic working areas are up there. But where the anxiety is that the overall stuff, the big stuff, won't be getting done in the same way, right? That they're just going to have this as a sandbox, like a completely unedited community sandbox, and that they're going to continue to leave the way you play in the pretend house video game up to humans on servers making their server the way they want. And that's not the game that lots of people want to play. The game they want lots of people to play is a designed game, professionally done by people who are making concrete artistic atmosphere decisions about what type of game they want to make. Do they want to make a survival game, or do they want to make a social game? Great. Make it more social friendly. If you want to make a independent game where you're not supposed to group up, cool, do that. But I think they're having an identity crisis constantly. The Isle is trying to be a horror game and a social mixing game. Like they're trying to be, a pet simulator at the same time as being, for lack of a better term, a hunting game simulator. Like for
Model, yes.
for real. And like the way that they're serving the different aspects of the community is in some way incongruous. So they end up just not doing anything, right? They end up saying, well, we're not going to stop mix packing because how can you stop mix packing? Instead of like putting in specific like design decisions. And a lot of people are very hopeful about the diet update that's coming in, where you have to have a varied diet in order to grow more effectively. But I think that'll just get gamed into oblivion. Also, that'll just be another, hot spots area that we need, that just naturally happens. And that's okay, right? It's not horrible to have hot spots or dead spots in your map, but it's also like it's not addressing a lot of the key problems that are ruining the fun right now, right?
Yeah,
The fun isn't finding food is too easy. The fun is every time I get a Deinosuchus up to 60% level, it gets killed by another Deinosuchus, and there's no other places for Deinosuchuses to go. That's the shitty part. Like the things that are ruining the game for a lot of the streamers are the fact that they cannot prevent mix packing, that they cannot prevent overpacking, that they cannot prevent stream sniping in lots of ways. They cannot prevent people on Discord from having an inherent advantage over the people who use in-game chat because of the sound that in-game chat has.
Yep.
Like there's lots of ways that the humans are getting around the system, getting around the game, outside of the game, that are not natural, that are in some ways abusing the system for anyone who's not doing that, right? It means that if you're not mix packing, if you're not on Discord with as many of your friends as you can possibly get together and overpacking, then you're not really playing the same Isle. You're not really playing optimally.
And I want to be clear. I think that all of these problems can be, pushed in the right direction by good gameplay design. This is the difference between, I don't know, like Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. In Magic the Gathering, all of the rules are interpreted by people. All of the, everything that is done is up for debate. It seems like.
Yeah. Well, you need judges. Magic the
Yeah,
Gathering
you need
tournaments
judges.
have judges in them.
And in Hearthstone, all of these mechanics are built into the game. There's no reading through the rules of that server. It is the game elements push you towards playing in the way that was intended by the game designers. And if the game designers have good intent, then that's a pretty fun game. And
And right now, because there are no rules on the official server, apparently the game designer's intention, is by default that they do want you to overpack, that they do want you to mix pack, right? Like they're not preventing them.
Yeah, these are the reasons. The people outside the game molding it into their, where they have more power than other people, and just very, very odd, false feeling environment that becomes of that. That's why I left the Isle. I wasn't comfortable playing in that sort of environment, and that combined with without that community aspect, I didn't really find much to do other than hunt, which was not the part of the game that I really came there for.
Yeah, and
I came there for the survival and survival with friends, not survival against people.
And for me, like I do love the combat, and I did read the rules, and once I understood and interpreted the rules, that I knew that the rules are there to create that fairness feeling that people want, right? The reason we have water rules in Legacy Isle is for body denial, so that you can't attack someone, have them go into a lake, die, and then you starve to death, even though you attacked them successfully, right? All of the rules have purposes that are designed around fairness, and that's correct, and that's important, but it's also not something that you know right away when you join a server, right? So when you're an herbivore and you're attacked by a carnivore, you might want to run across the water, right? Because that sounds like a normal thing that herbivores would do, right? And
That was my first accidental rule break. Was I was like, oh, I have to I probably can swim faster than it.
yeah, I would need to get
And
away from this predator.
how is a new player supposed to know that you can't touch water if you're being chased?
If you're bleeding,
There's
yeah.
there is no aspect. See, yeah, I don't know the difference because the rules are long and arduous.
Well, and every
And
servers is different, right? I could be
yeah,
correct on Isla Nublar, but wrong on Isla Nicta, right? They
of
all
course.
have different rules, and that's one of the things that creates their community. And also, it's one of the ways they get money out of people who who do get loyal to that server and who kind of help build that server. Is because that's the only rules that they know really, really well. And if they go to a different server, they're a fish out of water, right? And they play different out there, and maybe they don't like the way they play out there, or maybe they've never tried it. So this is like, there's lots of problems with different servers, but the overall the message is the game needs to, with its designers, decide what kind of game it is, instead of leaving that up to servers funded by Patreon with points that, the person at the top of these servers is making some money. I don't know if it's a lot of money, but it can be for very popular servers. And that is its own like weird economy that's occurring inside of a game that shouldn't have that, right? You should be able to play the game, right? You should
Yeah.
play the game for free. And the game doesn't include one of every single dinosaur, pterodons scouting for their carnivore friends on the ground, and a Deinosuchus player, getting you in the water. It sucks to be ganged up on, right? In ways that don't feel fair. Speaking of which, I'm going to kill this Deinosuchus right now.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a look at this.
Yeah. Um,
While you're doing that, I'd like to get to my other point
sure.
about why
Feel free to continue.
I left the Isle. Is I heard that that the development company that is working on the Isle has some major problems, and ones that I'm very alarmed by and disagree with. I'm talking about the I heard there was a large degree of um, I don't want to say anything because I didn't look too far into this, but I got the impression that the people who are making the Isle, especially the head person,
Mhm.
was making some decisions that I wholeheartedly disagree with, and I'm talking outside the game, and I I am very skeptical when putting my time and money into games with people who I don't respect because I don't trust them to make a good game.
Yeah.
This there have been a lot of accusations um, that I heard at least that made me not really respect the group behind it. Um,
Yeah.
and in combination with that, and that's outside the game. In the game, there are these constant hints that they plan to add people in and guns and human gameplay. And I looked at that. I said, "Why? I don't think that's what most people are here for,
I know.
especially not me." So a promise that is that strong that they're going to take this game in such a different direction than I intend made me not really want to build up a loyalty to this game. Even if I didn't enjoy playing it now, it seems like I certainly won't enjoy playing it later.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean,
was
that's
upsetting.
that's a big disagreement that I also have with the companies. I don't think they should put in humans. I, I, they've continued to hint that they're going to do it with their art and with their structures, and they have a guy that's supposedly working on the systems and mechanics for it. I don't really see how getting shot with a gun is gonna help me out as a
Yeah.
dinosaur. I don't really see that a dinosaur would have a lot of advantage, unless the guns are extremely, extremely weak. At which point, like, why would you ever be a human? Between like the element of surprise needs to be on the dinosaur's side, and that kind of has a lot to do with map design or humans only sticking in like certain areas. And like, sure, they could make a game about humans having to go in like areas that benefit dinosaurs and the dinosaurs having the opportunity to hunt and kill them. But like, that's not the draw of the Isle to me. Many dinosaur games have, for some reason, felt the need to include humans in it. I think because of Jurassic Park, but I don't have any interest in that. Granted, like, players don't always know what's going to make the best video game. That's kind of the job of designers. But still, I can't not feel the way I feel about it, right? And my gut instinct is like, just make a cool dinosaur game and make it really good, please. And you haven't even done that all the way because there's massive volumes of exploits that your community uses on the daily because they can, and they're clearly beneficial. We made a video earlier about there being an incentive for carnivores to eat anyone that comes up to them that's weaker than them that wants to group with them, right? Cannibalism. The idea that you can be approaching a fellow player asking for mentorship, and then that player could just eat you, could just take advantage of your naivete and new player experience, the fact that you are new, which is exactly the community that the game should be trying to recruit the hardest, right? The game should be encouraging grouping. The game should be encouraging mentorship to teach new players what the rules are, how to play, how to have fun in the game, and also to make new friends, right? That's kind of what community is about in games and gaming. And instead, we have a mechanic where you are not disincentivized from killing young things that come up to you, but you are, in fact, incentivized to kill younger versions of yourself that are coming up to you, not just because they're smaller and weaker than you, time-wise, they haven't had enough grow time, but also because you have the exact same abilities and skill set as they do, right? If a pterodon is threatened by a Carnotaurus, it can fly away. If a pterodon is threatened by a larger, bigger, older pterodon, it's dead. It can try to run away and hide, but having that fear come from the same place which you are seeking help from the other players and from the community from is a feeling that will drive new players away. And that's not what the Isle needs, right? And I think we should sacrifice that, hardcore survivalist element of, like, don't trust anyone. You can't really trust anyone in nature. And I'm like, bullshit. You're supposed to be able to trust your parents. You're supposed to be able to trust the people that are in a position to take care of you. And also, we're not, eagles. We're not raptors. We're humans. We're humans playing as raptors. So, the idea that we should get these humans to play in this ruthless way without any of the social underpinnings or precedent for it, quite frankly, from other games, is just, I think that's a toxic element to the community that needs to go away. And that's my whole video on cannibalism. That thing that I wish that I said more strongly about cannibalism is it's anti-new player. It's anti-mentorship. It's anti-growing the community. Is any time you don't want to go get help or information from somewhere, especially from the people that are, how I found out about Discord and the rules for Discord is I was in a group with someone that told me about it. I didn't know for like 3 months when I was playing the game that the discords existed for the rule servers, or that I had to read them in order to follow the rules, right? And if that person had cannibalized me, like the game incentivizes, at least if you're a carnivore, not if you're an herbivore, then I would never have known. Maybe.
Hey, it doesn't disincentivize it if you're an herbivore. You can still kill stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like you have attacks, and a lot of what the first impression people get of is, oh boy, I can't wait to use my attacks.
Sure.
There is not enough disincentive to be PvP all the time. And yeah, this in-group feeling was a huge part of what made me leave the Isle. The exhaustive rules, the new Discord server for every single time I played, the groups that were not, I had to have a social interaction that was, potentially dangerous for me. I don't really like interacting with new people every time I want to play a video game. Usually I try and avoid it. And in this one, it is required. And that's why I left the Isle.
Yeah. I'm trying to be friends with this Terra right now. Because it's younger than me.
Yeah, see?
But that's the thing is,
I like it.
I could have killed it. I saw it first. It's younger and smaller, and I am way, way faster than it. And I could have gone right up to it and sniped it out of the air in a second. Right? There's nothing preventing me from doing that. And in fact, because I'm a carnivore, that would have been a free meal for me for a very long time. Granted, grouping inherently makes people stronger, right? The idea that if you have an ally and you get, it turns a 2v1 into a 2v2 if someone jumps you. There is some benefit naturally to grouping if you can afford it, but if you are selfish or starving and someone comes up to you, especially the way AI is right now with the land predators, they're just going to kill you. Like, and that's the thing is, even for me, like, a lot of my group mates were like, oh, don't worry, I don't cannibalize unless it's a last resort. And I just thought, like, well, how do I know how hungry you are? How do I know when to run away from you? And they're like, well, I'm not going to tell you that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I mean.
There is an entire video regarding our ideas on how, ideal play, which is, the fun version of the dinosaur game that I'm hoping for, differs, and the things that we could do to change it.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting topic also, is like, do you think everyone's ideal version of the Isle is the same? Because I want to think that, but I also want to think that about like politics and the world. It's like, I think if everyone really thought about it, we'd all come to the same agreement of what like a good life or like taking care of other people is. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. And like, there are lots and lots of PvP people who really want to be able to hunt everything they see because they're bored, or they want an action strategy, or they want an action game, right?
Sure. Yeah. In my mind, yeah, I noticed you're pretty sick there. In my mind, these clever, they're not even rules. These are just mechanics in the game that encourage and discourage behavior that makes the game fun or not fun to a wide audience. And this can, in my ideal version of the game, you could jump in and do PvP. It would just be more than circling around in a clockwise direction.
Yeah, or patrolling, like...
Yeah.
So they have improved the combat a lot in this new version of the game. They like added positional damage, which was huge. They added...
But what I'm saying is that I don't know if that's necessarily... Like, I don't quite have time right now to go through all of that. I think that your original question of the vision of the Isle from the new player is
Right.
is a really good it's the kind of video I'd like to watch. So
Sure, sure,
uh,
sure.
I think we definitely should do a video on the clever improvements that we could introduce to this game that would not only improve it for us, but also improve it for the entire community. And surprise, a lot of them line up with the rules they've been making and the rules that server owners have made, because they have a very good idea of what makes this game fun.
Yeah, they're the players. They're the
Yeah,
ones
and
who want to have fun.
yeah, that's what I want to make most clear when I say like changing the game. It's not changing the game away from what you want. It's adding reasons for what you want that fit in with the narrative of the game, and they don't make it more complex. They make it feel more intuitive.
Yeah, they make it simpler
Yeah,
by guiding
and
you naturally with good game design to do the behavior that most of the community already wants to have happen to them.
yes, and
Like not
that
getting eaten by
dinosaurs experience. It's about introducing unique experiences that that you could only get in a dinosaur game. And I think that's another point I'd like to touch on, is that the experiences that I had with this game were kind of limited. I felt like I was put into a few different situations, and aside from like unique locations of combat, they all felt pretty much the same to me. Um, I
It's
think
like
that a
sniff
lot of
around for something to find it, attack it, repeat.
yes, it's a very small gameplay loop. And let me use PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds as an example. A game that I don't play anymore, but a game that really solidified the concept of memorable moments for me.
And
Um,
similar genre, right?
yeah,
Again,
it's a
big
very
map,
similar
hunting game, lots of players. It doesn't circle in, right, with a little closing circle, but
Yeah.
it should be in the same genre, or at least considered to
Yes.
be.
So the thing that I enjoy so much about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is that every encounter felt different because of the circumstances you were in, be it where you were on a map, or what you were carrying, or where you were in comparison to the other people. They seem like such simple variables that shouldn't make every battle feel different, but somehow they do, and that's good game design. Um, with the Isle, there aren't enough variables to make me like a good heuristic that I use for if this gameplay is memorable is if I'm walking around a map of a game and I see a location with no other identifying marks other than I remember winning or losing there. That is a strong example of just this plethora of interesting memories that I have regarding this space. And I never developed that in the Isle. All the map looks the same to me, not only because it lacks a little bit of difference in the space, but also because the moments that happened to me weren't quite memorable enough for me to solidify that location in my mind.
Yeah. So I do have that with the Isle. It's
Oh,
one of the
that's good.
reasons that I made videos about it. It's like I can go all over this map and recognize where I died in specific locations a lot each time, but a lot of them do kind of shake out in the wash if I don't make a specific video about it.
Course.
There's a lot of treasured memories that I have as a gamer. That's one of the reasons I play games, is to create those memorable experiences in PUBG or Apex. And I still remember those to this day, of my Apex wins, my first PUBG win. I don't think I'll ever forget that, right? And there are some versions of that with the Isle. where like I still remember the first tournament duel that I ever won. I
Yeah.
still remember taking down my first T-Rex solo, right? I remember exactly where it happened. So I think that might be a feature of just like the Isle not appealing to you in several key ways, and then it didn't give you the game time that
Probably. That's a good point.
that would let you invest to that level. Because
Hey,
like,
side note, you won the first ever game of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds that you played.
oh yeah,
I
thanks.
remember that day. That was incredible.
That was
What
pretty
a tense
crazy, right?
battle.
Yeah, it was a 2v2 situation.
It was 2v2, yeah, and
I think I
the
had the
entire
M16.
ending was so drawn out. And we just had to wait, and that was one of the most unique parts of that game at the time, because it was our introduction to that genre of the tense wait.
Yeah, slow
Oh,
play. And that's the
one
thing
of
is,
my
the Isle
favorites.
does that well also, and its combat is much deeper than it ever has been with
Sure,
the
yes.
Everma. And so that's the thing. It's like I have every confidence that they'll do that part of the game well. I have actually pretty much full confidence that this team, given what I've seen from Everma, will make an interesting combat. They will make an interesting map. They will let people be on that map, and they will have certain mechanics like sickness or getting smelling salts or adding diets that will shake up, quote unquote, the gameplay loop. But what I'm talking about is they don't need to just shake up the gameplay loop. They need to decide what their game's heart is and build systems that encourage that exclusively. And they've tried to do that by eliminating general chat, which cuts down on the toxicity, having grouping be proximity based only, so you have to like literally find people to group with, and you can only have like pretty limited group numbers, 3 Carnos, 4 Terras. Personally, I think the group limits should be cut down even more, because I don't like large groupings, but that's just me. I also don't run a hypermassive Twitch channel that has, a bunch of subscribers that want to be included in all of your hunts. So there's, again, that different variety of wants and needs for the Isle. But the thing that I'm advocating for the most is that to safeguard new player experiences, the game itself has to take responsibility for the new player introduction loop instead of constantly shuffling it off on to us, onto the community, right? Onto the servers, to telling people in chat where to find the server Discord rules or how to play or how to do all these things if there's going to be cannibalism, right? If you want the community to guide the new players, you need to give us incentives to do that are, don't give us disincentives from doing that, right? And again, this is an argument that just applies to carnivore players, but guess what? Most players want to be carnivores. Everyone wants to be a T-Rex.
Everyone, yeah.
Everyone saw Jurassic Park. They want to be the big T-Rex. He's the hero of the
Absolutely.
story.
Yeah.
He saves the day. So yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, that's what I wanted to say. That's my conclusion statement. Is the game needs to start taking responsibility for the new player experience instead of constantly hoisting it off onto the community when the community has almost a disincentive to taking care of new players, which is the lifeblood of your game. If you want your game to succeed, especially in early access at this moment where you're making all this noise, you're making all these positive improvements to the game and changes, new players are flooding into this game, and indie games need to stop hemorrhaging players, right? Because,
Yeah.
like my friend, was a new player, right? And got
Yep.
hemorrhaged and bounced off of the game because of the way it is right now.
That's
Because
right.
they've steadfastly refused, they've abdicated the responsibility of creating the new player experience.
Yeah, I think I've said everything I want to say. Thanks for having me, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Are you going to keep streaming? I'll hang out.
Sure. I mean, I'm gonna make a page break for this, so I'm gonna stop
Yeah.
streaming, but then for edits, but I'll come back.
Hey, everyone, for real, like, Clever Diversion is really fun to hang out with. Like and
Thanks.
subscribe or whatever, all that.
Plugs, plugs,
Uh,
plugs, plugs.
yeah, don't subscribe to me.
Yep, I'm gonna get awake from all these plugs.
Yeah, he could put a link in the description of this video for
Oh
my
yeah,
channel,
I
but I'm
will.
gonna try and get him to not to.
I'm going to. You
Oh,
can't stop me.
jeez. Okay.
All right.
All right. Peace.
Bye.